Jane Austen gave us Pride and Prejudice. Did she go to school? No. Charles Dickens gave us Oliver Twist. Did he go to school? No. So, are writers born or made? Umuntu obhalayo uyazalwa noma uyakhandwa. If uyakhandwa, bakhandwa kanjani? Ngani? If bayazalwa, are we trying to say that everybody who is writing today is born a writer? This is an age-old debate, like the egg and the chicken debate. Yini ezalwe kuqala? Yini eyaba khona kuqala? Iqanda noma inkukhu? If iqanda belingekho inkukhu angeke ibe khona. If inkukhu ayikho iqanda belingeke libe khona. So today we are trying to demystify the whole writing thing. What makes one a good writer? What makes one a writer who is able to pen stories that are moving, who is able to write songs that are so moving, who is able to write essays that are able to shake our country, that are able to shake the world. So what is it that goes into writing good stories? What goes into writing good short stories? What goes into writing your best poems, your most beautiful songs? This is what we are trying to do today. So we are not necessarily bringing something new. We are trying to redefine, we are trying to clarify what has already been there, because this is not something that is new that we are bringing. You know, there have been a lot of writing tutorials. So what we are trying to say today is, let us break it down into much more simpler, understandable, clearer terms. With that, welcome to today's writing crash course. The first thing, writing is being regarded, okay, by me at best. Most of the world's greatest writers were never schooled. You have Jane Austen, who gave us Pride and Prejudice. She didn't go to school. You have Charles Dickens, gave us Oliver Twist. Did he go to school? Not really. You have Dante Alighieri, gave us the Divine Comedy. Was he that much educated? It's arguable. So, are writers born or made? If writers are born, is everybody who is writing today born that way, or did they find writing along the way when they grew up? If writers are made, what makes a writer a writer? It's an age-old debate. It has been going on for years. So today, we are here to try and demystify the whole writing thing. We are trying to find out if writers are made or writers are born. With that, welcome to this week's edition of the Writing Crash Course. The first thing that we have to go to, writing is more of a pebble in a pond thing. Let us assume that we are sitting in a park. You have a stone, and then you throw it into the river. What will happen? There will be ripples. A few circles around the stone that you threw into the dam or into the river. Writing is more of a pebble in a pond thing. If you are throwing a stone into a river or a dam or a pond, what will happen? You will get ripples. So those ripples are ideas that relate to your central idea. So whenever you sit down to write, what are you writing about? What is the idea that you want to write about? And there will be a lot of other ideas that relate to your central idea. How so? Let us make an example. You have an idea of writing perhaps a movie, a short story, a novel about how intelligent or how powerful women are. But in what sense? We understand that that is your idea. Your idea is to write about powerful women, but they are powerful in what sense? Perhaps you want to talk about their emotional intelligence. Perhaps you want to talk about their bodily intelligence, you know, how they use their body to get what they want, or how well they are able to contain themselves in stressful situations. So all those are the ideas that relate to your core idea. Now, that's why it becomes problematic for many writers, because you see this idea, it relates to your central idea, and then you want to add to it. You want to add something else to it. You want to add more and more and more. So for us to have a good written piece, you first need to sit down as a writer to say, this is the idea that I'm having. This is This is the stone that I threw into the river, and this is the ripple that I want to write about. Yes, there are many other layers of the same ripple. There are many other ideas relating to this idea. But now, this is the idea. You need to choose one idea that you have to, that you want, or you feel that it is best suited to write about. That's the first thing. The second thing, you scout your ideas out of all the ideas that you have. You want to write about powerful women, understandably so, that is your central idea, but in what angle? Emotional intelligence. Now you are scouting. Now you are separating what you want to write about from all these other things that you would love to write about, which relate to your central idea. Moving on from that, we have, let us call it a cut in a park scenario. Let us assume that you are painting a picture, you are sitting at a park, and then you want to paint a beautiful scenery about the park where you are sitting. And everything is perfect, everything is beautiful as it is. The trees are green, everything is lovely. So you sit down to paint. While you are in the middle of your painting, there comes a cut. It parks right where you are sitting. Do you include the cut into the picture that you are painting, or do you wait for the cut to be taken away? What do you do in that situation? First of all, you have to understand that you including that cut in your picture will make your picture look much more beautiful. You know, it will give it that real authenticity taste. But do you really need to put it there? Is it what you wanted to put in the first place? So you see, there are a lot of things that when you sit down to write, the things that are appealing to be included, but are they necessarily necessary? No. So you need to identify the things that you would love to put into your writing, which are appealing but are not necessary. So you cut all these things, you cut all this clutter out. You take out the things that you do not need in your writing, in your piece. You take them out. No matter how beautiful they look or how appealing they sound, take them out. Because the more you put in, the denser it becomes. And the more dense it becomes problematic to the reader to understand what is this person talking about. What is the idea that is being trying to be communicated here. So, writing is more like painting. It can be compared to that. But when you are painting, you know what you want to paint about. Even if there are other things that will come, surround the thing that you are painting, you will never pay too much focus onto those things, but you will pay all your attention to the thing that you are painting, not the things that surround what you are painting. The same thing goes to writing. There are a lot of things that will be more appealing to your central idea that might appear as if they were to be added onto your central idea, they will make your main idea more beautiful, more charming, more attractive, more perhaps make it even sound more intelligent. But are they necessary? Do they really need to be there? If the answer is no, no matter how appealing or good they look or they sound, cut them out. Second thing, now you sit down to write. You have already carved your main idea. You have you have selected what you want to write about, and you know exactly how you want to go about transmitting that message to your audience. Now the second thing is putting the pen to paper. Now you are writing. It is your first draft. How do you write it? First of all, what is your message? What are you saying? Because when you sit down to write, you write about something. And if you write about something, you write saying something about that thing that you are writing about. Now, the message that you want people to have, the message you want people to take off from your piece, what is it? What is your message? Now, this is where it becomes a bit complex, a bit confusing. Because now, you have an idea, you know how to write about it, but now you have to think also, what am I trying to say? What is my message? Am I saying this and this is like this? Let us go back and take our example of writing about powerful women. What are you saying about powerful women? How are you saying it? Are you challenging the status quo? Are you challenging the way women are viewed? Or are you challenging the power that they possess that they do not use? So you see now, it is no longer, now we have moved from the idea, which is writing about powerful women. Now we want to hear, what is your message? What are you saying about these powerful women? Is the power that they are holding good? Or is the power that they are holding is something that they are not aware of? So all these things, they need what? To be sifted. You need to understand the message that you are communicating through your writing. Second thing, which mode best transport your message? Imagine if John Legend decided to write a book about his song, Love Me Now. Would it make sense? How many copies would he have sold? Very few. How many people would have been interested in reading the book? Very few. So now you need to understand the message that you're writing about, what you are trying to communicate to others, the idea, and which mode best transports the message that you're trying to convey. Because the minute you understand the mode, you understand now the channel that you need to use. You cannot put a poem into a movie mode. It wouldn't make sense. So you need to identify the best mode to transport, to convey, to reach to the people that you want to reach, to be able to transport the message you're trying to communicate to the relevant people. So before you go about having your full on manuscript, understand the best mode. Which mode best works for the message that you're trying to convey? If you feel that a song would better convey the message that you're trying to communicate, then put whatever thing that you're writing into a music format, because it is in that format where it will make much more better sense. It will also lessen the work, because imagine having to write something that could be summed up in 14 lines. And now you put some added pressure because you want to have a book out of that 14 lines. So you see now, you will have a lot of words that are meaningless. You will have a lot of pages that mean nothing. You will have a lot of time trying to make sense out of something which would take years and years to be put together in a way that it would have some essence, it would have some cracks, something worthy of it. So understand which mode best transports your message. The third thing, what issue are you tackling? Let us go back to our first example. We are talking powerful women, but what issue are you tackling? We are faced with an increasing number of women who are getting abused on a daily basis. So by talking or by writing about powerful women, what issue are you tackling? Are you saying, are you challenging the way our society is? Are you challenging the way we view women? Because in most cases, women are viewed as the lesser side, the weaker side of the human species. So understand the issues that you are tackling. Yes, you have your message. The message that you are conveying is saying something about that other thing. So now, what issue are you tackling? Writing is not writing unless it stands for something, it means something, it says something. Three things. So understand the issue that you are tackling, no matter the mode of transport you are using, no matter the way your writing is contained or it is packaged. Understand the issue that you are tackling, because once you understand the issue you are tackling, you understand the people you are talking to, the audience. And once you understand your audience, you are able to understand which better way or which channel is best suited to transmit this message from your point as the creator to the point where now it is being read by others. Fourth, who are you talking to? Imagine you are selling meat and you go to a place where 90% of the people living there are vegetarians. You say you won't make good money. You know, your business will be seen as bad, and you'll be seen as a very bad businessman who cannot make good decisions regarding his own business. So you need to understand the people you are talking to. Let us go back. It is a very easy to understand example. Let us take hip hop for an example. Imagine trying to communicate something that is directed to old people, but now you are using the mode of hip hop. You see that it will not reach its intended people. Yes, hip hop has a large base, but the base, it's not the base that you want to talk to. So your mode is wrong. And because your mode is wrong, now the people you are talking to are not this. You need to understand what you are writing about, how you write about it, the way you want to distribute it, and the people that you are talking to. Understand Once you understand what you are writing about and the issue you are tackling, then you understand who are you talking to, because it's useless to write something if you do not know who are you writing this thing for. It goes back to research. Before you sit down and write, understand it. If you are talking about a particular issue and you are trying to communicate a particular message, understand who are the most relevant people, who are the people who are most likely to read or to immerse themselves or to engage themselves into this product that you are creating, be it a movie, a story, a poem, a song, or whatever that is written down. Once you understand your audience, you are able to understand the way in which it should be transmitted, the message that these people want to hear, and the way your message should be packaged. Building up. Now we are building our house, we are building our story, we are building this song, we are building this poem. From whose perspective is the story being told? Are you telling from the outside in? Are you telling from the inside out? From which perspective is your story being told? So let's make an example. A story of a lion and a hunter. One day it is said, a hunter met a lion and they shared the road together. Along the way, the hunter said to the lion, you see, we as human beings are stronger, much more clever, than all the animals that are here in the wild. If you don't believe me, let us go to the town and I will show you a statue of a hunter breaking the mouth of a lion. And I don't know, as they went, the lion kept quiet. And then they reached the statue, and there it was built, like the statue was sculpted. It looked very, very beautiful, very magnificent. Here's the hunter breaking the jaws of a lion. And after that whole thing, after they've seen the statue, the lion said to the man, it is all good because the statue was made by a man. But imagine if the roles were reversed, if the lion was the one that made the statue. I'm sure you get the picture. You see, so understand from whose perspective are you telling the story? Is it inside out? Is it are you part now of the story? Is it an us story? Is it an our story, or is it an I story? So you need to understand from which angle, from which perspective you are writing. Because if you are writing from an outside in, the tone will change. It will be different from the word that the tone that will be used by someone who's writing from an inside perspective. The second thing, from the building of faith, and from which point are you narrating? From when you say from which point are you narrating? Are you narrating as part of the collective? Are you narrating as someone who is observing? You are writing about something that you have seen, or are you a spectator in this whole thing? So from this point are you writing? It is important because it determines how you write about. Where is the story taking place? Third thing. Where is your writing, your piece taking place? Let us make an example. Imagine a story about a millionaire that is written from a setting Yasemakan. It would take a long time to make sense. But if you are writing about someone who's successful, who's model C, who's very suave, stylish, technological savvy, that story should be based in a suburban area. The setting should relate to the story or the message or whatever thing that you are writing. So also pay special attention, special focus into your setting. How does your story, or how does the place from which your story takes place influences the story? Does it drive it forward? Does it hold it there? Is it stagnant? What does it contribute from the place where you are telling your story? What does it do to your story? Because it's not only about writing about something. That something has to be anchored somewhere. The somewhere part is as important as the thing that is anchored on that somewhere place. So pay also special focus into where your story is taking place. Fourth, when. The when part is what, at what point is your story being told? If you are telling a story about the future, you need to understand the terms. What is more likely to be present by that time? Because you cannot write a story about the future and base it on the things that are here. are part of our reality right now. So understand the when you are telling your story, when you are writing your piece. One thing that is also more important is the when, the time. The time could be years, it could be days, it could be weeks. But understand when does your story take place, because the when influences the what. The what influences the how it is being told. Moving right along, we're going to the setting part, which is more like a paradox of jurisdiction thing. Let us, for a minute, understand the whole paradox of jurisdiction thing. Let us assume that you assault someone. Let's say perhaps in the US, you travel to the US, you assault someone, right? And then you fly back to this country. Now the person you assaulted there in the state gets sick for a long time, and 3 months later this person dies, and you are back here now. So the police want to find out how did this person die, and it is revealed to them that no, this person was perhaps bitten by someone, and that particular someone is in another country. So now you see, we need to understand that it becomes problematic if we are looking at it from a police perspective. If you are the one who contributed to that other person's suffering, when did you contribute? At what time? At what place? Because if you are in another country, then it's impossible for you to have already assaulted someone, because you were no longer there at that time when this person was already, declining, whether financial wise, whether health wise. So, leaving that behind, going back to the whole setting, is your setting relevant to your story? If your setting is not relevant to your story, then your story is problematic. So you need to pay special attention to your setting. How relevant is your setting to your story? 2, how does your setting drive your narration? You are writing about crime in a particular place, but the place is very, very suburban, it's very safe, it's very quiet. Now, how does your setting, which is this calm, peaceful, safe place, drive your narration, which is to show how prevalent crime is? So you see, these two things are not compatible. So now you need to find a setting that is able to drive, that is not only relevant to your story, but which also drives the narration of the story forward. Third, does your setting sustain the story? Your setting needs to sustain the story. How? It needs to be able to not only contribute to its movement, but to hold the story together, to tie it together, so that your message, your story, whatever thing you are telling, it also it complements where it is taking place. Let us go back to our example that we used. You are writing a crime story, but it is based in a very safe, very peaceful, very quiet place. The place does not sustain the story, because you know at the back of your mind that if you are to do something bad in a very security tight place, chances are you will be caught. So once you are caught, it means there's no longer a story there. So now you need to find you need to find a place, the placing of your story that is able not only to drive the narration forward, but is able to sustain the story. The most annoying part, your characters. When you are writing, you have a lot of characters that play around your mind. You have a lot of people that want to be part of your story. So how do you now separate the people you need in your story and the people that are the ones who are holding the story together? The first thing you need to understand is, who are your characters? By the who, we mean your key characters, the people on whom the story is based or the story is about. Now, for us to understand that, we need to understand, what are you writing about? The who, the what, and the how. Those three determine now the what, the characters, the people whom the story is about. Once you have found out who your key characters in the story are, we need to understand, where are they from? One cannot just show up and be a pastor. A pastor is a son. A pastor is a father. A pastor is an uncle, is a brother. So your characters must have history. They must have background. They must be relatable. What business do they have with the story or with the message that they're trying to pass across? What makes them stand out? No two people are the same. It is usually same. So what makes one character stand out from another? But what is this thing that makes your characters believable and relatable also? So you need to find, or you need to make sure that your characters, your key characters are believable. And believable people are unique. And unique people have histories, they have backgrounds. So you need also to add what makes them stand out. There are a lot of people, right? But no two people are the same, as we have said already. So each and every person stands out because of their uniqueness. So what makes your characters unique? What makes them stand out? Is it their history? Is it the things they do? Is it their manners? Or is it their behaviors? Because your characters are not just something that are cut out from a board. Your characters are real people, and real people have real stories. And if they are real people with real stories, they must have backgrounds, just like any other real person would. 3, are your characters believable? Are your characters relatable? Even if it's a story, even if it's fiction, but are they believable? Let us make it a very simple example. You find someone who portrays a certain character on a television soap opera or drama, and these people do whatever they do so perfectly that we start now assuming that the character they are playing represents the people that they are. You understand it. Sometimes you will see someone who perhaps plays a character which we don't like, a villain. And then you meet the person who plays the character, perhaps at the shopping center, and you get angry because now this person plays this character so perfectly that you start mistaking the character for the real person. It goes back. Are your characters believable? If your characters are believable, are they relatable? Can I say to someone who is doing something I saw being done by someone in a soap opera that you are doing something exactly like the thing that they portrayed, or the thing that is being portrayed by so and so on a television soap opera? That is now relatability. Are your characters relatable? As a reader, as someone who watches a movie or a story, or reads perhaps a particular piece, am I finding your characters believable? As the one who's writing, are you finding your characters relatable? Do you relate to your characters as a writer? Do you believe in your characters? Because if you cannot believe in your characters, and if your characters are not relatable from the point where you are writing, how then can they be believable or relatable to someone who will be a third party, out there, someone who will be reading your book or watching a movie? Make sure that your characters are believable and relatable. Make sure that they are real people, because characters are not just people picked up from the air. No. Characters are based on the people that we know. Characters are based on situations that we know. These are the people that we have met. We have just changed names and other things, perhaps a background here and there, but characters are taken from real people, and real people are believable and relatable. When does your story begin? It's a bit quite complex at first, because we believe that your story begins the minute you sit down and write. But no, the minute you sit down and write, that is when you are laying the foundation. You need to understand at what point does your story begin. Let us make an example. Here is a girl who has a crush on this guy. They go out to a school dance, and later on, the guy takes the girl home. But now, there's also another guy. So now you see, there are two guys who are friends, and then there is this one girl. So these two are fun. Now they go to a particular place, perhaps let's say the guy's place. And right there, this girl now falls in love with this another guy, not the guy that the girl has a crush with. That is not where the story begins. The story begins when something happens between the two who are not at first having a crush on one another. It begins once they do something that will have a negative or a positive impact on that other guy to whom these two initially had a crush with. So that is where the story begins. So you need to understand at what point does your story begin. Understand, your story begins when there is conflict. Your first point of conflict is where your story begins. Your story does not begin where you sit down and write your first sentences. No, it begins at the first point of conflict. Now, how does your opening drive your story forward? Imagine you are reading a book and the first line you say is, I shouldn't be alive. I should have died a long time ago. The immediate thing that will come to your mind is you want to find out why is this person saying this particular thing. So your opening lines, your opening dialogue, it is what grips now the attention of a reader or of someone who is watching your movie or listening to your song. You see? So you need to pay special attention to how you open your writing or how you open your movie, because the minute I am lost when you begin, surely I will never sit down to finish whatever you are writing or whatever you are portraying. So pay special attention to the opening. Third, where is your conflict? Where is your first point of conflict? Stories are driven by conflict. Conflict is derived from one wanting something and then there's an obstacle and one has to overcome this obstacle. So now, understand that if there is no conflict, there is no story. Where there is conflict, that is where your story actually begins. So understand your first point of conflict. Right. Now, we have spoken about your characters. Now let us talk about how now you introduce your characters into your play or into your story. You cannot bring in your characters, all of them at the same time. You need to introduce them in a way that will not disturb the flow of the reader. This goes back to practicing restraint. The first thing you need to understand when you introduce characters is that restraint is better than just than you bringing in a whole new character, and now we have to go back and try to understand the character if you can practice restraint. Restraint how? Sipo and Sizwe are two friends, but now Sizwe is dating Sipo's girlfriend. We do not know, we had never seen the girlfriend in question. Now, how do we bring in this girlfriend into the part of the story? How do we reveal this girlfriend? You see, the first thing we've done already is we've already identified that there is a third person. The second thing is perhaps include a minor details, like the name of the person or the age of the person. See, we are bringing in a third character into our story, but we are bringing our character with restraint. We are not just bringing in, like, okay, this is Sizwe and this is Sipo and this one loves this other guy's girlfriend, and now here's the girlfriend. So you see now it becomes all mixed up. So practice restraint when you bring in your characters. Third, how are your characters introduced into a story? We know that Sizwe is dating Sipo's girlfriend, but now how do we bring the girlfriend into the story? Let us say they meet at the mall or at the restaurant. Now, Sizwe is dating Sipo's girlfriend. Sizwe and Sipo are at the restaurant, they are having a brunch. By mistake, the girlfriend is also at the same restaurant with her friends. They are enjoying also their own lunch, unaware of the presence of these two friends. So now, see, we have already now introduced the girlfriend, but did we introduce the girlfriend as a Sipo's girlfriend? No, we introduced the girlfriend with her friends, having been at the place and having lunch. See, now you need to find a way in which you introduce your character that does not do what? Destroy or make a mess out of the flow of your story. Now, here's another thing that is much more important. Most of our stories are written with more emphasis on what is being said than what is being done. Now, the most important thing, not to say dialogue is not important. Another important thing is how people carry themselves. People are not parents. The things that they talk about are not like recorded. The things that they talk about are followed by manners, by behaviors. There are things that we do and say without saying it or putting it in words. These things are written, are embedded in our languages. Imagine someone who says, "I love babies" with a smile, but does not or will never be found taking care of a baby. So you see, what is being said does not match what is being done. So a lot of things ride on what is not being said. Your visual cues. How do your characters behave? What are the things that they do? Imagine someone who is angry, or someone who gets angry when hearing of something. Or imagine someone hearing of good news. Let's say you write about someone who is watering a garden, and then this other character comes and brings in bad news to this guy who is watering the garden. What are the things that this guy would do that will show us that this guy is angry or is sad or is upset about the news that he just heard? Will he stop watering the plants? Will he throw away the watering can? What would he do? So these visual cues, these things that are being said by our actions, not by our words, what are those things? Pay also special attention to your visual cues, your little changes in behavior, the things that your characters do that represents things they want to say but cannot say. Dialogue. The problem now. More is said with what is being done than what is being said. Your visual cues, your manners, your behaviors. So include those things. Imagine your characters as living, breathing human beings. Human beings that do not necessarily have to say each and everything, but there are things that are being said by how they behave and how they conduct themselves. 2. Is your dialogue more about explaining or driving narration? Imagine you are writing a story or you are reading something, and then the writer writes something like, because so-and-so was born on this day and age, it meant that this particular person is an Aries or Sagittarius or a Virgo. And this is how he found out because he was interested in astrology. You see now, Guti, more time is spent on explaining than driving the narration. So you need to put more emphasis, more time into understanding your dialogue. Are you explaining through your dialogue, or are you driving your story forward? Third, does your dialogue match the tone of your story? Imagine a romantic story written from a tone that is angry. These two things are not compatible. There is love, there is rage. So these two things are not compatible necessarily with each other. So you need to understand those things, such things as those. And also, your dialogue should not be a game of he said, she said, he said, she said, he said, she said. You also include other things. Perhaps it was raining and the rain occupied the minutes that passed between them in silence. You see now? So you include all the things that are happening surrounding whatever that is happening between your characters. Because your characters, the dialogue that they share is not a one-way, two-way, one-way, two-way. There are things that they do, there are things that happen between them, there are things that happen also around them. So include those things in your writing. Fifth, don't make your dialogue sound too scripted, too cliched. Even if it is something written from a point of fiction, let it not be too scripted. You can feel when a thing is too scripted. They think that this person is supposed to say this and this and this and this and this way. Do not make it sound too scripted, too written, too cliched. Make it normal. Normal people will never follow one train of thought, throughout the story. They will include a lot of things in one thing. So make your dialogue as original as possible, and original dialogues are not scripted, are not too cliched. They include a lot of things, but towards one goal, towards one road, towards one stream. The sixth thing that we need to pay also special attention to it, coming to dialogue, is that understand that your dialogue positions people. When I say I am positioning myself. When I say we or they, I'm positioning them and myself. There is a distance that I'm closing or opening. So through your dialogue, understand that you are positioning people. You are giving people roles through the words that you give to these characters that you have already created. So pay special attention to those things. Reaching climax. What is the struggle between your protagonist and your antagonist? What is the struggle? What are they fighting about? Because there has to be something that they are fighting about or fighting for or access to it. So what is this struggle? Understand this struggle. 2, who has advantage over the other? The third, what does your protagonist want? Your protagonist must want something so that we can have what? Conflict. And how does your key characters get to the point of getting what they want? How do they? What are the means? What are the ways? What are the channels that they are using in order to get to the point where they want, where they want to find themselves in? Understand the way of reaching your climax. How do we reach your climax? It's a step-by-step thing. This is what a protagonist wants. This is what an antagonist doesn't want to happen. And these are the ways that these two people are doing. And this is the point where now we have a climax where this one breaks and this one receives. So understand how you build up from the beginning of the story all the way to your climax. Once you've reached your climax, it's a question of how now do we go down? How now do we close the story? So, where does your story end? Pay attention to at what point does your story end, or how does your story come to an end, and what are your intended takeoffs. If you are writing about something and it ends in a particular way, what are you saying? What do you want us to take off? What do you want us to take home with us after having read your book or after having watched your movie or your drama or your story? What are the takeoffs? What are you intending to give to the people who are watching or to the people who are reading? And 3, how you close determines what you say. The way you close off your story, it says something about the message you want to convey to others. 4, is your closing a cliffhanger? Is it open-ended? Make your own conclusions. Or is it a traditional way? This and this and this happened, this is why it is like this. Or it is a mystery. We don't know what happened. So now, if it's a mystery, it means that there will be a follow-up. If it's open-ended, it's make your own conclusions. If it's traditional, how do you close it? Because how you close it determines the message that you're conveying. And it tells us if there is something more to expect, or we are left to come up with our own conclusions. And for this day, this is all that we have. We hope that everything that we have spoken about will help you. It will inspire you to sit down and write. Because writing is seen as this complex thing, but it is not. The minute you understand all these other basic things, it becomes much more easier to go about writing. It's like baking. I need more baker. You need to check the temperature, the stove, the utensils, the pans and everything. But the minute you have everything in order, and then your baking becomes easier. This is what we hope with this whole writing crash course. We hope that you will join us next time. For now, this is all we have. Happy writing.